Please be aware that I'm not a mental health professional. Some of the content discussed includes real people. My opinions are based solely on speculation and conjecture and cannot be held against me by any person or persons that have committed themselves to watching this installment. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of T7. You might be wondering what T7 stands for or represents. Tonight we're going to be talking about a subject that does not pose much interest to me, but nonetheless I have it on my mind, so therefore we're going to go ahead and take it on as a discussion. Let's get started. So tonight I wanted to just talk a little bit about Bigfoot, and before we get into anything here, I just want to let everybody know that I don't really care if Bigfoot exists or not. It personally makes no difference to me. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. So does Bigfoot really exist? I mean, there are pictures, there are reports. There's been shows about Bigfoot, including on channels like National Geographic. There's been shows dedicated to Bigfoot, like Bigfoot Hunters, where they go out and they try to find evidence or even capture it or try to take it on film. People hunt Bigfoot. There's people out there putting up trail cams, actively pursuing and trying to get evidence. There's even groups and organizations of people who I believe get together on a semi-regular basis at the very minimum and actively try to hunt the creature. So I'm from the Pacific Northwest, which is kind of like the heart of Bigfoot country. A lot of people here. There's some tourism industry based on it. There's a place called Harrison not too far from here. It's said to be a very big hotspot for Bigfoot sightings, a Bigfoot location. I don't really believe or disbelieve in Bigfoot. I personally don't really care. If I had to lean one way or the other, I'd say it's fairly likely that a creature like that exists in North America, especially with the amount of sightings and like even loose evidence that we have found out. But I did have an experience when I was living up north, and I'd like to share that with you now. I was driving with a girlfriend of mine who was an atheist, definitely like one of those, browbeating atheists, like, how stupid are you? How dare you believe in God? So she didn't believe in anything. And I was driving back from Fort St. John to Dawson Creek with her. And you can look that up on a map. It'll give you a good idea of how far north I'm talking about. And we were crossing this bridge. And it was a bridge that was over a ravine. And the drop was at least a couple hundred feet, if not more. I don't know the depth of the drop. I could probably look it up, but I don't really care. Anyways, when we were coming around the corner, because the bridge was kind of on a little bit of a wavy road, something big and black and huge and large, this was at nighttime, was in the road, and I actually swerved the vehicle to, just in case it didn't get off the road. Sure enough, it did. This all took place in the matter of like a few seconds. And, afterwards, we both had seen something. It had left the road, it got off the road, it disappeared, couldn't see it any further, down to the ravine or whatever. And we had an adamant discussion about it, and she declared it was a bear. And I'm from Canada. I've seen bears in the wild before. I've dealt with bears in the wild before. This was not a bear. This thing was huge. It was humanoid. It was tall. It was big. And it stood and walked upright. Like, bears can stand, but they don't strut, right? So anyways, we had this long discussion, and she would not accept that it could have been anything besides a bear. Now, I'm not saying that was a Bigfoot, because I didn't see anything, right? I saw a big, tall, for all I know, it's a person, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that people are so quick to say that there's no possibility of a Bigfoot, and that the people who search for it are stupid or mad. And I guess I would just totally have to disagree. And I'll present to you my argument why. Okay, so what we have in front of us is a population density map. And it very simply illustrates the inhabited places on the planet.
the darker the red, that means the more people are living there, the lighter the color, etc., etc. Okay, so if all of the non-painted area, and we can see that in Africa, some of it is represented by desert. In the northern hemisphere, we can see that a lot of it is represented probably mostly by tundra or very cold area in the Himalayas and Nepal regions. Again, we can see that there's not a lot of population, as well as the majority of Russia. So the reason we're looking at a population density map is in regards to the argument for Bigfoot. So again, I want to remind everyone that I don't really care if Bigfoot exists or not, but this is more just about what makes logical sense. Now, the majority of the planet in landmass is not habitable, and that's mostly because we can't grow crops there. There's no good position for agriculture to develop in these areas, and that's why there's not a lot of people living there currently. This does give a huge area of wilderness, most of which undiscovered, most of which unpenetrated by humans, is there to lay wild and perform as it would, as nature intended it to. So the reason I'm bringing up a population density map is because it basically goes to show how much of the planet we are not occupying on a regular basis, at the very least, and we have no conception of what the flora and fauna could be in those areas. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is panda bears. Panda bears, our WWF mascot, cute and cuddly. We just want to take them home and make them our pets, and they're so soft. We make plush animals out of them. Kids love them. They're just the icon. Well, panda bears are fucking stupid, okay? And they live in the middle of nowhere in the middle of China. And what I have here is the Wikipedia. The story is actually quite good if you care to look it up, about the discovery of panda bears and all the details that happened. But I'll go over it briefly. The West first learned of the giant panda on the 11th of March, 1869, when the French missionary Armand David received a skin from a hunter. The first Westerner known to have seen a living giant panda is the German zoologist Hugo Weigold, who purchased a cub in 1916. Okay, so here's basically the point that I'm making, is that, you know, we're discussing Bigfoot in Western society right now because we're talking about Bigfoot. We're not talking about a Yeti or anything that could potentially live in Himalayas or Russia or anywhere else on the planet. We're talking about the Pacific Northwest Bigfoot. And, you know, even down in the southern United States, I believe it's in the Georgia area, they have these, what do they call them, swamp apes or something like that? I can't remember exactly what they're called. Skunk apes, I think. Yeah, that's it, skunk apes. But anyways, we're talking about Bigfoot right now. The point of this is that it's only been 104 years since we have had living proof as a Western society that panda bears existed. So now, like, if you think about that, that is kind of noteworthy information, right? Like, you want to sit there and say, "Oh, Bigfoot, you some stupid conspiracy theorist," you know? There's no proof, there's nothing, right? Well, there isn't any tangible evidence that I've ever found or has been presented to me personally, but I have heard a lot of stories, and I don't propagate Bigfoot, I don't care, but I've heard a lot of stories about people who do find hair samples, have them sent off to labs in different parts of the countries, and you know, the samples are determined to be of an unknown species, or the samples are destroyed or lost, unrecovered. You know, I'm not going to cite any proof of this. It's just stuff that I've heard as I was growing up. Again, I'm not particularly interested. I don't care. I'm just presenting the argument here that I think you're kind of naive on your own planet to believe that this creature could not exist, because it's just a hominid, right? And there are many examples of hominid-like creatures on this planet, right? orangutans, and gorillas. Gorillas bring us to our next topic. So, yes, of course, we've known about apes and gorillas for a long time, but I wanted to point out, in the respect of the gorilla in this case, the Western gorilla, it says here on Wikipedia, which I credit as a notable source, the explorer Paul de Caillou was the first Westerner to see a live gorilla during his travel through western equatorial Africa from 1856 to 1859. He brought dead specimens to the UK in 1861. So, the first Westerner to see a live gorilla, that wasn't until 1856. So we're talking about just about 174 years ago. So 174 years ago is not a long time. You had the Roman Empire going down into Africa and taking all sorts of wildlife to use as, fighting in their Colosseum, to use the animals for fighting in their Colosseum. They brought back lions and giraffes. Everybody's seen the movie Gladiator. We all know that's true, right? That movie's based on reality. When I think back to the thing that crossed the road on the other side of the bridge there, do I think that was a Bigfoot? No. I don't think it was a Bigfoot. I don't think it was a bear. I don't know what it was. I don't really care, and I don't even really think about it very often.
Is it likely or possible that this creature really exists? I'm just trying to stimulate your imagination. That's for you to decide. You should really stop being so close-minded, though. It's not good for you. These are just three basic arguments: population density, the gorillas in the mist, and the panda bears, to shape your opinions on Bigfoot.
There is an extreme lack of evidence, but again, we don't know how this creature lives. Like, it could be solitary. It might not live in families, which means that there's only ever one of it walking around at a time, right? It's not going to be in large groups, which makes it harder to find. It could be that it's subterranean. It could live mostly underground. Who knows? Maybe it's fucking shitty fungus mushrooms and fucking picks slime off the wall, and every once in a while it comes out wanders out of its cave and goes walking around and gets busted by somebody and runs back underground. Like, you don't know, right? And then, maybe they don't like salmon, and that's why we never see them like in the streams fishing for salmon or anything like that. Maybe they do. I don't know. Like, these are all things that you can't really say one way or another, but I hear some pretty stupid things about Bigfoot, which are definitely going to have to get slid into this edition of T7 here. Interdimensional Bigfoot, if you haven't heard of this, basically, it's not insane given what we know about physics, but the long and the short of it is that, every once in a while we get a dimensional intersection, a Bigfoot crosses over, somehow he makes it back. Also, we could chuck missing 411 into the Bigfoot mix here now. People who go missing in national parks across America every year. So, maybe you could hold Bigfoot accountable for that too. That's a possibility, right?
To me, the likelihood of Bigfoot existing is not something I really think about. But when I do, I arrive at it's very possible. The evidence is not very good, but more cameras are getting out there, trail cams are getting out there. The problem is that with technology nowadays, you can really fake anything in a picture, right? I don't have very much experience, and I can make myself a decent hand enough that I could pull off a decent Bigfoot fake. But yeah, that's another thing. I want to know about these experts who examine the evidence, who examine the pictures, the ones who determine whether or not these pictures are fake. I saw something recently, I guess that might have been something that triggered me thinking about this, but it was about a park ranger who was monitoring a camera, and he saw some kind of a shadow in there, and he said he's watched that camera thousands of times, but can say for sure that he's never seen that, and he was basically insinuating it was a Bigfoot. It went on the internet. This was not that long ago.
Anyways, I think that wraps up our first edition of T7. There could have been things I forgot to talk about. As I said, I'm not very amped up about the subject. I just wanted to bring it up. That's all I have to say. Peace out.
So before we get started here, I want to let everybody know that I am not a mental health professional. Okay, I don't know why I keep trying to steal that.